Start of the NFL season is just 3 days away, and I am here for it. It's going to be a somewhat abridged, unique college football season, which has got me more fired up for the NFL season. And Texans take on the Chiefs on Thursday. And so we thought we'd play a game called More Likely. What's more likely to happen? John, let's go.
So what is more likely to happen, for a team to go 16-0 or a team to go 0-16?
Jacksonville is pretty bad, but at some point, a home game, somebody overlooks you. I'm going to say 16-0. I think this year, the good teams, because of no OTAs and no preseason, the good teams that return stars, quarterbacks, and coaches and O-lines are going to roll. I think you're going to have multiple teams with 11 or more wins. Baltimore, to me, was red hot for much of last season. They have the easiest strength of schedule. They end the year with 6 non-playoff teams from last year. They got a couple automatic wins over the Bengals in their own division. Yeah. So I think it's more likely a team goes 16-0.
Is it more likely the Cowboys win the division or miss the playoffs?
I actually think miss the playoffs, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I think they had some significant losses. Randall Cobb, Travis Frederick on the offensive line, Byron Jones. Their offensive line and their secondary could ill afford losses, and they lost arguably their best lineman.
Yeah.
I also think they were 1-6 against playoff teams last year, and they lost 4 of their last 6 games, so I don't think they have momentum and a new coaching staff. I like their receiving core, but I do think the offensive line is deteriorating. I think you've really noticed it in the last 2 years. It is not the best offensive line. There are times I've actually thought Philadelphia's offensive line plays better. So I think missing the playoffs is the better bet if one of the two is going to happen.
Is it more likely for the Patriots to make the playoffs or for the Bucs to miss the playoffs?
More likely. Say it again.
Is it more likely that the Patriots make the playoffs?
They're not making the playoffs.
Or that the Bucs miss the playoffs?
Probably the Bucs miss the playoffs. First of all, the division's really good. I mean, just think of the quarterbacks. You face Matt Ryan twice, Teddy Bridgewater twice, and Drew Brees twice. And Matt Rule twice, Sean Payton. These are really high-functioning offensive coaches. And here's the thing with Tampa. Their defense was really good last year, but they gave up a ton of points, whereas New England's defense keeps you in a lot of games. Let's be honest. New England's defense eats up Josh Allen and Sam Darnold. And if Tua plays, they'll eat him up too. So New England could end up winning a lot of ugly games potentially because their defense is outstanding, and it's just nothing but kids playing quarterback in that division.
More likely to make the playoffs, Justin Herbert or Tua?
Tua. Miami spent more money in free agency than any other franchise. Byron Jones, elite left corner or elite corner.
Yep.
Kyle Van Noy, Matt Breida, the running back, the speedster. So they're a rebuilding franchise, but they have much more pop offensively. Shaq Lawson's there, and they also have a good receiver already in Devontae Parker, and they finished really well. They 0-7 to start the year, finished 5-4. And if you look at their schedule in November, it gets significantly easier down the stretch. So if they can just tread water for the first 6 weeks, they got a shot.
Is it more likely for the Chiefs to repeat or for them to miss the playoffs?
I missed the playoffs. Listen, this division's good. I mean, Peter King thinks the Raiders are a playoff team. A lot of people like the Raiders this year, and I think they're 4th. Let's be honest about it. You win the Super Bowl, everybody gets paid. Some people don't quite put the work in. It's the last team to win back-to-back Super Bowls was Patriots 17 years ago, 2003, 2004. Also, the schedule for Kansas City is pretty rough. Forget their in-division schedule. 3 of the first 4 teams they play, playoff teams from last season. So, by the way, they could go 9-7 and miss the playoffs. I know it seems inconceivable, but all it would take is a injury on the offensive line. Mahomes in that division with a bunch of good pass rushes. All it takes is your offensive line. Go look at the Rams a couple years ago when they were on fire. You lose a center, you lose a left guard, your quarterback gets popped, you can't run the football, and all of a sudden you look up in a good division and you're treading water.
So which is more likely to happen? Carson Wentz wins the Super Bowl or misses the playoffs?
probably misses the playoffs. I like him. I don't love him. Brandon Brooks, one of the best guards in football's out. Even though the Eagles make the playoffs, it seems like Carson Wentz is never around long in the playoffs.
Nope.
They've kind of retooled their wide receiving core, which should be better. But it's a bunch of young kids. And also they've had some injuries in camp. So whatever it is with their strength and conditioning program or bad luck, Philadelphia's hobbled. Seemingly the last 2 or 3 years are constantly hobbled.
All right, this is a really good one. More likely to be on a new team in 2021, Aaron Rodgers or Dak Prescott?
Dak. Yeah, if Jordan Love had a great camp, I'd say Rodgers. But listen, Andy Dalton and Dak, and I'll say this. This is the third quarterback to play under a franchise tag. The previous two, Kirk Cousins in Washington and Drew Brees with the Chargers. When was that? Drew Brees. They ended up with another team.
Yeah.
So, listen, quarterbacks do not like to be franchise tagged.
Rodgers is under contract after this year. Dak is technically not.
So, and the other thing is, Dak and the Cowboys, with a bunch of good quarterbacks, have a lousy secondary. I can see Dak having statistically a pretty good year, but they go 8-8, and McCarthy looks at it and thinks, I got to go up against Rodgers and Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson and Garoppolo and Matt Ryan, and my guy has a low ceiling. I could see him saying that in a year.
And finally, more likely to win the Super Bowl, the Chiefs or the Bucs?
I don't think either's going to win the Super Bowl. I would say the Chiefs return 18 of their 22 players. Sure. So whereas the Chiefs have all this continuity, which should help them. I think Kansas City. I know Kansas City fans are saying, "Wait, we can win the Super Bowl." I don't think Tampa's winning the Super Bowl, and I don't think Kansas City's winning.
It's more likely. You're not predicting.
Yeah, more likely is. I just think first of all, Kansas City, even before Mahomes, is a solid, stable organization that had gotten to the playoffs. They had the number one scoring defense. Kansas City did the last 7 weeks of the year, so their defense played really well. God, look at that. Kansas City and Mahomes playing Thursday night. Thursday night. It's been such a crazy last 6 months. Difficult for a lot of people, families, teams, military personnel around the country, just everybody. It's been really difficult. You're away from your family. You haven't seen your kids for a while. Your kids don't go to school. So I just can't wait for the NFL, but it is interesting. It's kind of sneaking up on us. I was saying earlier today, I was sitting around over the last 7-8 days one day, and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot the Lakers are playing because I'd been on the lake all day. And you just I'm used to doing certain things. I'm used to the summer being, not a lot of sports except baseball, chill out, stay up later, go to a lake, hang out with the kids. And I'm used to in August watching football until, beginning of August to the end, getting me all ramped up to it. Now, Labor Day used to be this big college football weekend. It wasn't. August, there's no NFL football. It's mostly looking at camp news. So it's like, boom, Thursday it's here. Thursday the NFL season's here. So it'll be interesting to see how the country reacts. I think all the sports now are competing against each other. Will it hurt the ratings for all of them? I think the accumulation, all told. Also, we used to go to bars and watch games. You don't go there anymore. So that used to be a big deal where you gather